After the Orlando Magic got off to an impressive 2-0 start to begin the 2023 campaign, the Magic have now dropped back-to-back games in Los Angeles, losing to both the Lakers and the Clippers. And while the Magic's offense has been struggling to get into any kind of rhythm, the biggest level of concern for Orlando Magic fans so far to begin this season has been with former #1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero. Before we really dive deep into talking about Banchero and the Orlando Magic's struggles to begin this season, if you guys please could go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Orlando Magic content that we do here on the HQ. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow HQ and myself, Brett James, on all of our socials, especially on Twitter. We're both active and we're on there every single day. But let's go ahead and actually talk about Banchero and why he's been struggling so far to begin this season. If you look at his post-game presser last night, after that loss to the Los Angeles Clippers, Banchero had this to say about his shooting woes and his struggles. My main focus is to make shots, man. It's been rough so far, man. It's gonna come, I gotta trust it, and the teammates gotta trust it. And I absolutely do believe Banchero when he says that. I do think that all of the international play this offseason definitely helped him. Maybe there's some fatigue left over from that after competing in FIBA this offseason, but I believe Banchero is going to continuously get better. We're still in the very early parts of the season, and Banchero's numbers have not been up to par so far through the first 4 games of the season. If you look at Banchero and what he's done in about 31.5 minutes per game so far this season, Banchero's averaging 12.5 points per game, 5 rebounds, about 4.5 assists per game, but his shooting woes have continued. He's only shooting about 38% from the field, 22% from behind the arc, and he's only shooting a woeful 54% from the charity stripe. Paolo Banchero has not been what we've expected of him in his sophomore season. And at the very end of the day, no matter how good the Orlando Magic's team is playing, this Magic team is only going to go as far as Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, their 2 best players and the catalyst for this team, can take them. If they can't set the tone and they can't be the catalyst for why the Orlando Magic are being successful on a night in and night out basis, they will only go as far as Banchero and Franz Wagner take them. Now, the biggest notable thing about Paolo Banchero and his struggles so far to begin this season has been with his shooting. I addressed his shooting splits, but when you actually go ahead and you're watching these games, it looks like Banchero's almost pressing a bit. I don't know if it's necessarily him being a little bit timid with a couple of the shots, sometimes being a little bit out of rhythm when it comes to pull up or catch and shoot jumpers, but a lot of times it just does not look like the flow of the entirety of the offense is necessarily there. Even when Markelle and Cole are getting deep into the paint and they're kicking out to shooters and they're kicking to cutters, it doesn't look like the rhythm of the offense is there, and I think that's affecting Paolo Banchero and some of those shots not going in. Now, obviously, he's got to be able to take those shots confidently in rhythm, and I do believe over time those shots will go down. But as of right now, it does not look like the flow of the offense is collectively working together as a unit. It does not look like a well-oiled machine, and I do think that has something to do with Banchero not being able to connect on a lot of these jumpers as of right now. And when you also look at Banchero's shooting, I don't think it's necessarily just, like I said, how the offense has looked a little bit lethargic and how Banchero's not really connecting on a lot of these jumpers. If you go back to literally the home opener versus the Houston Rockets, he only had 6 field goal attempts, and while the Magic absolutely routed the Houston Rockets by 30+ points, and the Magic collectively put together a very good game, your best player only attempted 6 shots. Something needs to change there. I understand the Magic collectively had a great game, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but Paolo Banchero needs to do a better job of asserting himself early on into the game, getting those shots in rhythm, setting the tone for the rest of the game, and I think that's ultimately going to help himself and the team moving forward. Another issue I think that could be affecting Paolo Banchero and his struggles through the first 4 games of the season could be with the team rotations. Now, there's been a lot of question marks and a lot of eyebrows raised about Jamahl Mosley and his decision making when it comes to the rotation. When you look at Markelle Fultz and a handful of others who have not really consistently been in the rotation towards the end of games, I think we saw that versus Portland. There was definitely some questions being raised. I do think that sometimes these rotations have been affecting the first and the second unit. When you have Cole in there for an extended period of time, you have Mo coming in. There's a lot of questions that you could ask yourself about Jamahl Mosley in this rotation. I do think that there's still some early season struggles going on, like I said, on that side of the ball, offensively speaking, getting everybody up to speed collectively and getting this thing to run, like I said, like a well-oiled machine, and I do think that falls on Jamaal Mosley. I do think at the very end of the day, the head coach needs to be held accountable for this stuff, and I do think at the end of the day, Jamaal Mosley will figure this out. This is still an exceptionally great and young, talented team, a very young team that has a lot of moving parts, still figuring it out in place, even though you have your starting five set. You've got your sixth man of the year potentially in Cole Anthony. I think Jamaal Mosley needs to do a better job of figuring out the rotations as of right now, seeing who fits best towards the end of the games, and seeing who actually needs to be the closer. Because I also think, to address that point really quickly, when you look at the end of the Lakers game, even though Jalen Suggs had a very good game, you look at Franz Wagner taking that last shot on the last possession, and I do think that you need to address Paolo Banchero getting the ball earlier on in the fourth quarter and making sure he can be a closing type of guy for this Orlando Magic team, because like I said, this team is only going to go as far as Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero can take them. And while Banchero and this Orlando Magic team has been struggling offensively speaking through the first 4 games of the season, and I do believe that they will collectively pick it up together, this has been an elite defensive unit so far through the season, led by Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Isaac, and they have been on one through the first 4 games of the season. The Orlando Magic are number 1 in the NBA so far in opponent points per game, limiting opponents to about 102 points per game. They are number 3 in defensive efficiency and number 4 in defensive rating. You have 2 potential all-NBA defensive caliber players in Jonathan Isaac. If he can remain and stay healthy, we know the kind of defensive impact he can make and what Jalen Suggs has been doing. This defense is up to par. This defense is playing like a top 5 defense in the game of basketball, and Banchero has been playing good defense as well too. Offensively speaking, that's where this team is collectively struggling. That's where Banchero and Franz Wagner need to assert themselves early on, and a lot of that has to do with game plan, and a lot of that has to do with getting these guys in rhythm early and timely. And I do trust that Banchero will get these shots going on. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. But we know at the end of the day that we trust PB5 to be one of the best and most talented young blue chip players in the game of basketball. I wholeheartedly trust him. And while it is frustrating right now, I know he's going to get things turned around, get these shots going on early in rhythm, get him on some early pin down actions, get him in some early pick and roll actions, and even get him to the charity stripe, going downhill, creating some contact, make sure you get some easy looks going in, see the ball go through the net, and I think the Magic will be just fine moving forward. And the Magic will be wrapping up a 4-game Western Conference road trip as they'll take on the Utah Jazz, but they also don't have an easy stretch. Once they get home, they'll be playing the Lakers, the Bucks, the Hawks, the Mavericks. They've got a tough stretch ahead of them, and this is going to be a big testament for the rest of the season if they can get some early staple wins, especially at the Amway Center. Magic fans, we hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. Like I said, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Orlando Magic content that we do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me and Orlando Magic HQ on all of our socials, especially on Twitter. Both very active, and we're on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. But Magic fans, thank you guys again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, and like always, let's go Magic.